anyone younger than our generation in this family probably didn't know him because Harry Dad died about 6 months after our wedding, after Ann and I were married. And so, obviously before our kids were born, which was really a shame. Next, others. Jane.
One thing that I enjoyed was getting to know Nana as an adult. Because of living there in Southwest Washington, and she was there in Milwaukee, Oregon, and I had the little baby Cyrus, and I could go over there and share him with her, and we could sit and talk, and she then started telling me stories about her life and some of the problems they had, early on with Harry Dad and some of the failed businesses of his, and it just made me realize that we were all connected as adults, and that I had grown up and she was treating me as an adult, and that some of the same things, that she had gone through those things and can share them with me. And that was wonderful to have a grandmother, to be able to relate to a grandmother on that level, a real adult-to-adult level. One thing I remember when they would come to visit in Chico was Harry Dad would always bring a lot of coins with him. And I had a little knick-knack shelf with little ceramic animals on it. And when I was out playing or something, he would go in there and put stacks of pennies and nickels and dimes under my little animals. So they were sitting on these stacks. And so I would come back to the room and just be, oh, it was a lot of money to me, and it was so magical that the little animals were sitting on these stacks of coins. So that was always very fun. And I liked visiting them in their Madrone Street house there in Chico. And Tom and I would go when we were in junior high and high school. Tom would mow the lawn, and he got a root beer float always when he was done mowing the lawn.
And we'd sit together.
And
Harry Dad would come in from tending his roses, which he would periodically fall into in those days. And the three of us would sit and have a Hires root beer. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, they would just sit there in the kitchen with us and talk, and they had the big shrubberies out the kitchen window that they called the Ritz, and all the little birds would go in and out, and they were very careful. They knew all those little birds.
And
so
in mowing their lawn, I would mow around the California poppies, and so their lawn would be left with these little bunches of poppies, and that seemed to be fine with them. They never objected to having the poppies left.
There was an appreciation for the natural parts of life, the birds and the trees and the flowers, and that certainly was passed on to many of us. I know particularly myself. Probably that's where my gardening inclination comes from. Those years seeing them garden.
Anyone else? Trish?
My experience was very different from the rest of my cousins because we were 3,000 miles away from Nana and Harry Dad most of my life. So it was a real treat every 4 years to be able to go out and see them for a week or so. But how marvelous those were. I want to speak about Nana's abilities as a letter writer to eliminate that 3,000 miles. And she was just as involved as if she had been 10 miles away in our years. And she cared dearly about us, even though it was years between personal contact. But she always made it feel that way, that we were close. And during the time when I was expecting Sarah and actually got a chance to live with Nana and Harry Dad for an extended period. First time in my life I'd ever been able to do that. The memory I cherish the most is the two of them singing to each other in the morning. That was so dear. And I said, what love these two people have. The first thing in the morning they're singing to each other. It was beautiful. It was a gift to each other and to me. I also want to say, nothing to do with Nana and Harry Dad. The best year of my growing up was the year we had Jim come in and stay with us. He brought West Coast games that none of us Easterners knew or played. And suddenly, we were the best family on the block because we had Jim, who knew all sorts of wonderful imagination games. And years after he was gone, we were still playing those wonderful games, and we were unique. We were the only block in Massachusetts that was playing these games, wonderful games that Jim told us. And he brought to us a concept that was completely foreign to my brother and me. Completely foreign. And that was when Jim made a mistake. He said, I goofed. Wow. That was really an amazing thing. And I hear your voice echoing in my head all my life, that when I've made a mistake, all you need to say is, I goofed. And you can make it right again by owning up to your mistake, saying it was a dumb thing, and going on.
I still do.
Thank you for all your gifts to us that year.
Thank you,
Next, anyone else?
If we're talking about Jim. I was just saying how you were we looked up to you so much there when you were in Chico on Amber Way, and it was always exciting to go into your room because there were always incredible things going on in there. I don't remember specifically anymore, but you sort of had a workbench along that one wall, and you'd always were doing something, and you were always willing to show us and talk to us, these, little buggy cousins, And I was remembering you had mercury in a dish, and that was always fascinating. To see,
I didn't drink it.
But the fact that we played with it explains a lot about the
Oh, that's right. And I remember you making a Superman cape for your teddy bear?
It
Or
could
some
well be.
teddy
I mean,
bear.
you made
Yeah,
some
so you
neat
could-
outfits for some
Because
bear.
I did that didn't I, in Massachusetts? I made
Yeah,
clothes
you
for
could
the
sew, and you worked on your guitars. It was just, it was very inspiring for us younger cousins. I
It was a
just
good time.
want you to know that. It was wonderful that you shared with us that. It didn't make us just go away and not bug you.
Well, it's nice of you to share dessert too. I always seem to show up at dessert.
That's right.
Sir, I don't know if you came a little late, but we were sharing stories about mainly Helen and Harry, or Nan and Harry Dad, or others. If you care to, that's fine. If not, it's okay too. Anyone else? Probably the highlight of the weekend, I hope, and I'm positive it will be to have the three sisters share some of their stories. We'd love to hear them. I would personally like to hear them. And sometimes, as I was sharing before with Lori, sometimes your position in the family really determines how events affect your life. In my own family, my mother was the youngest in her family. Whenever I talked with my aunt, who was the oldest in the family, about the same events, they were totally different. Is this the same event that happened? And so I think, to be able to share some of that perspective and other things that maybe some of us were not aware of would be great. So I don't know which of the three of you would like to start or finish, or you can all come up at the same time and just kind of start talking with each other and with us, or however you want to do that. But I would invite Eleanor and Frankie and Lori to do that at this time.
I would like to talk about Dorothy.
Can you hold on a second? I changed tapes here.
I wrote it out, and I tend to stutter, and so I'll just read it. I hope I can read it because it's she was a very. Maybe I'll have to have somebody else read it, but I'll try. In my opinion, Dorothy was the best. She was my role model, but I never measured up. She was earnest about being a good daughter. I remember no arguments. She got good grades in school, made friends easily, was helpful around the house. played the piano, sang in the church choir, until she moved to Corona. My dad's sister, Aunt Jessie,